Eminent domain.
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain.
Bulldozed under the threat of eminent domain.
Please listen carefully.
What happens if the university takes this building? What happens to you?
We lost job, but for both, and then, lost everything. For my age, no education, and my husband and I, how can we take care of this, everything, support my life?
To feel that there is an entity out there somewhere that after you get something off the ground, after you have made your sacrifices and worked hard, that someone else can come in there and simply take it away from you. That is beyond what anyone should expect to happen to them.
If your question is whether I believe they have the right not to sell, I don't believe they have that right.
This restaurant represents the struggles and hardships that my family endured. Long before the university was even built, it was a GI trailer camp that my grandfather lived in. My name is Bill Tong. I am the son and grandson of the founder of this restaurant, which was originally called Tong's Tea Garden, built in December 1954. My grandfather built this from an empty lot. This was not just a business, this was home. This is where we spent our childhood. Kids growing up in a house, they have little chalk marks on the wall. We have those in the back of this building. It's a lot more complicated than just a business deal. This is very emotional.
Eminent domain. It's been called a despotic power, and it's also been called a tool for the public good. Eminent domain allows governments to seize private property for public use. Northeastern Illinois University President Sharon Haas says she needs to exercise this authority to realize the mission of her school. President Haas wants to build new student dorms and apartments, but she says NEIU doesn't have enough room on its current campus. So she went to Bill and his neighbors along Bryn Mawr Avenue with a price and asked if they'd sell. Most of them weren't interested in leaving, but President Haas argues that eminent domain allows her to take the properties on Bryn Mawr whether the owners want to sell or not. Bill and his neighbors disagree. They have built businesses, a community, and lives on Bryn Mawr Avenue, and they don't think they should be forced to sell on someone else's terms.
Right now, just putting everything in here. See, because I think the people come here, you see Saturday and Sundays lying on the door. I want to do something great, and I'm telling you, this neighborhood is a great neighborhood.
The hopes and dreams that we had back in 1970 are probably the same as those shared by every immigrant family that is starting a business at this point in time.
This neighborhood support me, protect me. I feel like that.
And now we are faced with losing a piece of property that was to provide for us. We're absolutely shaken by this.
It was a hostile action. In fact, one of the neighborhood residents went further and said, this was done by the barrel of the gun.
The exercise of eminent domain and those sorts of things has been within the law of the United States and European countries for centuries. And the question is public purpose. If we wait for public purpose to be done in a casual way or an informal way, it may never get done.
That this can be justified as a public purpose when the best information we have suggests that at best it will serve the top 10% of our student body. How the top 10% of the student body of a university with 9,000 students justifies a broad public purpose to devote so much public resource toward a lengthy eminent domain lawsuit, that just doesn't measure up to public purpose to me.
I think when one walks down Bryn Mawr between Bernard and all the way to Kedzie, you can see that the economic condition is pretty depressed.
It never occurred to me that eminent domain would be used by a university to build retail stores and housing for students in collaboration with a private real estate developer who stands to make millions from the university's seizure of our properties.
A university has its own needs that are defined and met by the university.
They kept referring to this as a dream, but for those people who are affected by the eminent domain issue, this is a nightmare.
We invited the community to unveil the Decade of Dreams and explain what was going on with regard to both housing and the other building projects that we have for the Bryn Mawr campus.
And so you have immigrants on Bryn Mawr who are multi-generational families who built up small businesses, who had to overcome discrimination, racism, and prejudice to establish themselves here in this neighborhood. And now that they sort of went through the hard times, right, and built up their businesses and are waiting to reap the benefits of all of those decades of investment, now is when the neighborhood is going to be taken from them so somebody else can benefit from the upswing.
Being a Chinese American, I knew that, you know, the ideal is for a son to preserve the accomplishments of his father and hopefully improve on them. I don't stand a chance of that if the property is destroyed.
If I would speak to the Tong family, and I were speaking with them directly, I would say I recognize that you do not wish to give up your property. You will be receiving a fair market value for your property. It is my hope that you may take that funding and do something appropriate, but this is progress within the law, and we are continuing to do this on behalf of our university, on behalf of our students, and on behalf of our future.
It's a grossly unfair thing to do. It's theft. It's theft and it's strong-arming.
I don't think I can even begin to describe the feelings that one has. If this can happen to us, then it can happen to just about anyone.
In many ways, that block is a microcosm of working class America. So within that context, it's important to recognize that just because something is legal within our system doesn't mean that it's just. It doesn't mean that it's good.
There is a societal need and right that is bigger than individual needs and rights, and this is one of those examples.
So in this sense, we have people who are being told that they don't have the right to continue to benefit in the future from the economic prosperity that they worked so hard to set up the foundations of right here on Bryn Mawr.
It's the physical destruction of our family's legacy.
It is within our law, it is within our society. This is part of how our society moves forward.
Does NEIU's plan to build new dorms satisfy the burden of public purpose? If any of us can lose our property at any time to projects deemed appropriate only by government officials, what does this say about the state of our democracy? Without the right to create, buy, hold, or sell our property, we become like serfs in a feudal time. With property rights, we attain the individual agency at the very heart of human rights and create the prosperity of modern life. Perhaps the question we should be asking is not whether NEIU's project satisfies a public purpose, but whether governments should possess the despotic power of eminent domain at all. To protect property rights on Bryn Mawr Avenue and in neighborhoods across Illinois, visit nocronies.com.